AHL Man of the Year. 500 pro fights in his career. Got the record for most ice fights in a season. You fought the sheriff, lucky you're still breathing. The sheriff, AHL Man of the Year. 500 pro fights in his career. Got the record for most ice fights in a season. You fought the sheriff, lucky you still filmed the pod today. You listening tomorrow. The heavyweight champ, yeah, Sean McMorrow. 13-year pro, yeah, he holding it down. Big man playing it right, thumbs up to the crowd. Let's go. Rookie season suited it up, most tilts in the A, man. Sheriff badge on the bucket, heavy can play, man. Podcast trending, thanks for rocking with us, bro. Lived out his dream, yeah, he played in the show.
Welcome everybody to an exclusive edition of The Sheriff. Boy, oh boy, do I ever have a treat for you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is very rare that someone may get to have their role model as a guest on their show. But when my birthday was coming up and I could schedule a show, I thought there'd be nothing better fitting but to have one of the biggest role models that has been there for me at crucial times in my life, and I'm going to introduce him right now. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all over the world, I would like to introduce to you my guest tonight. He hails from Windsor, Ontario. At 6'2", 185 pounds, he is a middleweight. He is the recipient of the Order of Ontario. He is a 3-time Golden Glove boxing champion. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, my role model, Mr. Spider Jones. How are you doing, my man?
Got a live crowd here tonight, brother.
It is a big crowd tonight. I appreciate everyone that's come out tonight. It is my birthday, but more importantly, this man right here is so important to me that it means the world that you guys have come out to watch this. So I wanted to thank everyone for coming out.
Let me wish you a happy birthday first. What are you, 33, 34? How old are you now?
31, man. No.
31. You were 31 last time I talked to you. That was 20 years ago.
42.
I remember the first time we met. And it was out in Pickering. You were playing for the Pickering Panthers.
Yep.
And I dropped a puck. And I think it was 17 years old, and 16, 17, and you were a Buffalo Sabre draft. And
Almost.
Yeah. And they're all telling me about this tough kid out there. I wanted to meet him because I like tough guys in hockey. I love the game. And I asked you if you're going to drop the gloves. You said you'd make it a special occasion, and you did drop them. And so that's when I first met this kid. I always liked him.
I do remember that pretty clearly, Spider, but the one thing that I remember is you mentioning, hey, are you going to drop the gloves for me? You going to put on a show? I like the showtime type of stuff. And then I just remember being so nervous because in hockey, when you know that a fight's going to happen, and now it's all about, okay, so this is a for sure thing. I do not want to lose this. I have a lot of people behind me and supporting me. So for me, it was like I got the pressure of Spider Jones wanting a show. So I was happy because it went well, and you were there to see it. So that was good enough for me.
There were some tough years back then for me. I've been married to my wife, God bless her, for 48 years. But during the 70s and 80s, when they had the big bad Bruins and the Broad Street Bullies and all them tough guys in the game, I wouldn't miss a game. I mean, I was crazy. I'd break dates with my wife. I'd break anything just to watch the fights. I loved them. Yeah. You know, and this way before Proby came into the league and Joey Kosher and those guys. Boy, Wendell Clark. But I love the guys that threw them. I started back during the days of John Ferguson and Orland Curtin back in those guys.
Yeah, no, I hear you, Spider, and just hearing you say these names and talking like this, it kind of gives me goosebumps. I don't know if you guys could see, but see, Spider, I'm glad that this came up, and this is totally off any of the talking points that I've created. Yeah. I love that you brought that up because that's what the old school game was, and that's what the new game is missing. The character of hockey, of the players that used to play, it was incredible, and that's what kept people interested because it was like a storyline. So you were looking forward to the next game because you knew what happened last game. How is that guy going to react? Is he going to answer the bell?
It was war. Yes. It was war in a sense, and people cheered for their city. And the fact is, you just couldn't. When you ran somebody like Stevie Yzerman or Bobby Clark, you had to pay the price.
Yep.
And that's
accountability.
You know, it's not that I promote the violence in it, but hockey's as much intimidation as his skill right now. Even right now it is. And you see the teams that win, they got big power forwards like this kid out of Nathan
McKinnon.
Yeah, I mean this guy's a big power forward.
Colorado.
They got guys in Toronto that can score. Like Austin Matthews, but these guys are softer than butter in the heat. You know, but that's the problem. You got to be tough, man. The game. You got to be like Mark Messier and like the other two guys. They drive me nuts. The Chuck guys, but I'll tell you, want them on your team.
The Chuck brothers, yes.
You want them on your team.
Yes. Very good captains, and yeah, you definitely want them on your team. But now, okay, so now you made me a little bit more excited, Spider, because you're bringing up topics that I want to talk about all the time, but I just don't have a chance to because
this guy doing point now. Is he looking for trouble or something?
He's not looking for trouble. Roberto's the best in the business.
It's not Durant, just another Roberto.
Exactly.
Right.
He's even cooler. So, Spider, I wanna switch it up a little bit because, as I've mentioned many times before, you are a huge character, right? That's what I like to bring on this show. I like to bring on the big characters, I like to bring on the go-getters, but I also like to find out, how did it all start? How did this become? So in my opinion, I got to go to the beginning. We're going to Windsor. We're going to the border town. We're talking about the 2-bedroom bungalow. We're talking about the 9 kids.
Until I was 14.
Yeah, exactly. But Spider, I want the listeners and viewers to understand like what a real success story is to me. And that is what we're going to talk about right now, humble beginnings. I want to talk about the 2-bedroom bungalow. I want to talk about the 9 kids. Now tell me if I'm wrong. So it's 9 siblings, and then was there a niece or a nephew that your parents adopted as well?
A cousin.
Okay.
A cousin. My Leroy. His mother was my mother's sister. And she died young, and so he came to live with us too. So there used to be 5 of us sleeping in one. I never slept in a bed on my own till I went to jail. We slept 4 or 5 in one bed at night, and my mother and father never had we lived in a 2-bedroom bungalow, and so with 9 kids, we had the bedrooms. My mother and father slept on a pull-out sofa. So and they really must have liked each other because they had 9 kids. But. Trouble is, when you live like that, and you got 2 or 3 brothers that piss the bed all the time, it's like we might have invented the first water bed, but it was crazy stuff living like that back then. But still a lot of great memories because the siblings are all very close.
Yes. And thank you for sharing that, because I actually wanted to add to that point a little bit. I was going to ask you, do you feel that for those that and I'm going to say opportunity to be that close with their siblings, that close with their family members, do you feel that might spike up the average character as well? It's not life isn't supposed to be easy, especially for men. Life is supposed to be a little bit difficult, right? When you grow up with humble beginnings like that, I just believe that it strengthens the character that much more. I wanted to know your take on that.
I think it makes you appreciate things a lot more as you grow older. Like I never dreamed. Somebody told me if I was 14 or 15 that I would get a chance to interview the heavyweight champion of the world, or the vice president of the United States, or the prime minister of Canada, or people like Tina Turner, people that I interviewed, some of these legends, or even Wayne Gretzky or things like that. I would have thought, hey, you out of your mind. I'm just some kid from Windsor, pisses the bed and been to prison, and so you know what? But what it did for me was, it sort of give me empathy for other people in the struggle, because when I was as a kid growing up, I ran across a lot of racism.
Yep.
And especially in the radio business, where there were very, very, very few people of color, or any women at all. Mm-hmm. It was pretty much an old boys game, and
the old boys club.
Yeah, an old boys club. It still is, in a sense. But so that just the fact that I finally made it in the business, became the first black broadcaster to go coast to coast in Canada.
Yes.
And got a chance to cover.
Yes.
Hockey, my favorite sport. Everybody thinks that because I spent so many years in boxing, it's my favorite sport. Mm-hmm. I love boxing. but hockey was my favorite sport. I always a big fan of people like Jean Beliveau and Guy Lafleur and Larry Robinson.
Heroes.
You know, those guys, Davey Keon and these guys, I was big fans of them, you know. I just loved the hockey players. And I had a chance to meet them when I was young, a lot of them, because I followed the Windsor Bulldog games.
Okay.
And we followed the Detroit Red Wings back then until I moved to Toronto. And I don't know why, I just became a Hab fan. Sorry about that.
So now, I didn't want to give an applause to that. We clap for each other around here, Spider. So, Spider, now, obviously, you know I can't let you off that easy, though, right? About the upbringing. You know, I had the opportunity and to be able to read your book, man. And, you know, I'm going to get more into that a little bit later in the show. But your book changed my life. It was that inspiring for me, and it really means that much to me. The stories that you share, the story that you have in general, that people can learn about and feel blessed that people are able to accomplish things like you did. Now, I want to talk about some things that you said in the book, and you know, about being black in Windsor, Spider, okay? Now, you did mention that there was very few advantages and there was real provisions. Can you explain kind of what you meant by that in the book?
Well, Windsor had a very a small black population.
Yes.
But Windsor blacks aren't like blacks from Nova Scotia or from the West Indies. Windsor blacks are basically Americanized.
Very.
Because Windsor has always been influenced by Detroit. The music, the culture, even the police force.
Motown.
Let me tell you something about the Detroit police force. Was the toughest police force in America back then. And 1300 Beaubien is a place nobody wanted to go because that was headquarters. So here's the point. Windsor police are like that. And so we got the N-word a lot, and they pulled you overboard. Bobby Probert's father arrested both of my brothers. You know, I told Bobby that one time. We just laughed about it. But, you know.
Is he a big boy like Bob was?
I didn't know him personally.
Yeah.
I didn't know him personally, but they tell me he was pretty tough.
Yeah.
Pretty tough guy.
Must be if
Windsor
he
had
had a
some pretty tough guys, but you know, it was tough growing up there. It wasn't a positive experience. It really wasn't. It was totally different. When I left Windsor and came to Toronto, I couldn't believe it. It was just a totally different environment, different people. I fell in love with the city right away. But Windsor didn't have a lot of opportunities for people of color, but the music was great.
Yeah.
Look, straight up, I've had so many young people that come out of Windsor that have moved to Toronto or moved away to other places. I grew up with Abdullah the Butcher. Mm-hmm. But these guys all left Windsor to grow and to make it. And I've heard many of them chow me before. And I hate to, knock my hometown, but you just didn't give it the opportunity to grow like I did up here. But growing was a very slow process for me. You have to have that frame of mind. And when I first come up here, I was a thug. I was just in and out of prison from the time I was 15 years old till I was 26. People don't know about those years. Mm-hmm. They met me after that, after I got out of prison and turned my life around and straightened out.
Yeah.
And decided to go straight. And I was lucky. I had a couple of role models, and one of them was George Chavello. George was took me under his wing as a young man and really opened doors for me.
Now, Spider, thank you for sharing that. We did just mention the music a little bit, so I think now would be a pretty good time to kind of talk about this. To me, it's like incredibly cool. I'm not even sure where I got the info, my research. I think it was when I read your book. Mm-hmm. But I want to talk about the vibe. And I don't know if you already know what I mean, but I'm talking about the vibe, share with the world, of when a very unfortunate incident occurred where there was the death of your brother from pneumonia, okay? You were getting nightmares, Spider. So what you did for therapy, and I'll let you explain it, but when your parents left the radio on and you were hearing those DJs, and then you were dreaming of being the world's best DJ.
You read my book, didn't you?
Oh, buddy, I think I've read your book about 10 times.
Don't put your thumb in. You know,
For a split second, I was scared because I know that you can go. No, for a split second, I'm just like, is he mad? Right?
Well, look, when I was 6 years old, one of my younger brothers got pneumonia, and he died from it. And I remember it like it was terrible because my mother woke me up in the middle of the night with screams from her. And I looked up, and there she was, holding my little brother. He was 18 months old, and she was just weeping and begging God to bring him back. And then I saw my father come rushing in the room, and I never saw my father cry until then. And it just scared me. And then about an hour later, my mother was still holding my little brother, and this man came into the room, and they took my brother out. They fought my mother to take him, and they just threw him in a leather bag and took him out. There were no words of consolation, nothing. It was just terrible, and I had to relive that for years, and I became so frightened of the dark. Up until I was in my late teens, I was just terrified. Every night I had nightmares. It's just nightmares, and I'd relive that. So what my mother and father used to do to keep, they'd play the radio all night, and I'd listen to the music, and I loved the music. But more than that, I love the voices of people like Alan Freed, the disc jockeys. And I decided I want to be a radio jock. And I want to share that music with the world. And I grew up listening to all that stuff. I mean, Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald. And then as we went on, Marvin Gaye and you know, Marvin Gaye and the Temptations.
Yeah.
Smokey Robinson and then I listened to all the stuff, to Elvis Presley and Bob Seger. I got to listen to all of them. So I love country. A lot of brothers try to hide it. I will tell you the truth. A lot of brothers try to hide it, but they like country underneath too. You know what I mean?
You know what, Spider? I do like country. I'm proud to say that. Mm-hmm. I like every genre, and I think you could appreciate that just with you being in that whole field.
I love Patsy Cline. I used to love Patsy Cline, Connie Francis, and who? Marty Robbins, one of my favorites. Bobby Helms, and then I get into James Brown and Wilson Pickett. They're all, you know. I love my music,
That's right.
man.
Yeah.
Today, you can't give me none of that stuff except for Bruno Mars, because Bruno Mars is real.
Okay.
And he put on a show, he got on a show for you. He's the best thing since Prince and Michael Jackson in terms of the all around, ability. But the best I ever saw, he could really vibe you, and maybe some of the older people remember. His name was Jackie Wilson, out of Detroit, and this guy could do it. They called him Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Everything.
He's got to be good if he's called that, man.
But that's what Detroit was like back then. Yeah. The one thing about Detroit was the music. Mm-hmm. Detroit was like a beautiful, dangerous woman. She was seductive, and you want to be in Detroit, but there were times when you got to watch it because that was a murder city, capital of the world.
Yeah.
You'd be strapped. Back then, everybody was strapped back then. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
But we were all strapped back then, and that's why I fight so much now with my youth center for these young people, so they don't waste their time going to prison.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that, and we're gonna jump into that. I'm actually pretty close to right now, but before we get into that, Spider, I have to bring up the fact that there was a few different times in my life that you were there for very important times. One of them, which is very positive, was when I was 17 years old, Spider. Okay, so I'm 17 years old, playing for the Pickering Panthers. Season's over. I just got drafted to the Ontario Hockey League in the second round. So I'm on top of the world. I'm ecstatic at this point. I get a call from the Fan 590 saying, Sean, we would like to do an interview with you to talk to you about the OHL draft and your plans coming up. Mr. Spider Jones will be conducting that interview, right? Now, this is a kid that at nighttime would put on the Fan 590 and would listen to you on a daily basis. My mom got me a really nice stereo system one year for my birthday. I got the speakers. I got the speakers on each side of the bed. With the wires, of course. There's no Bluetooth back then. And man, I listened to you religiously. And when I found out that you were going to interview me, it was an incredible feeling. And
Well, I remember finding out about you because my producer then was a guy named George Strompolopoulos.
George Stropolopoulos.
And I told George, I said, we got to get this kid on. He's a hometown boy from Pickering.
Yeah.
And he likes to rumble. They tell me, you know, told me about you first of all. Michael, he owned the big Chevy.
Michael Boyer.
Michael Boyer told me about you. Was Jack Ridgway your
Pontiac
coach then?
Buick GMC. Jack Ridgway was one of the first player agents that I remember. Like he was, and he worked hard, man. He put in his time.
Yes.
He would come to practice. He would start building relationships with players and parents. And he's a good guy, so he'd win most people over. And I'm pretty sure he's always been a success. But yeah, Mr. Ridgway, man, that guy, that's you know when you hear a name and you just instantly smile. Jack Ridgway was a good man.
He was a good man. I
Yeah.
remember I spent a lot of time going to Pickering Panthers games, but and I remember when you some of your fights, especially you and Snugden. I knew this kid from the time he was 7 or 8 years old. He used to come down to the gym with his father, Travis,
Yes.
who was a friend of mine.
Yes.
And so I remember you, and I used to think, these guys, I watched you last week on the show with him, we're talking like two long-lost brothers.
Yeah.
And yet you
are.
You got to drop the gloves, boy, and go at it. It's just nothing personal, right?
It is nothing personal. It's all business, Spider. But as you would appreciate more, it's the competition, it's the rivalry, it's the camaraderie afterwards, right? The rivalry to the camaraderie.
Well, that's right. I mean, but you know, the people. I mean, it's the way. There's so many guys that I've had a chance to interview over the years that fought each other, and then out of the off the ice, they were the nicest guys you want to meet. I remember fighting Gary Summerhays 2 or 3 times, and he beat my ass worse than my daddy ever did. But we became good friends. Whenever we just hug and that, you know, it was all part of the game.
It's definitely an incredible feeling to be able to be friends with someone that you competed against for so long, and when the stakes were so high. Like when me and Sugar would go to battle, there was a 50-50 chance that I'm going to win, 50-50 chance he's going to win. I could not get knocked down. I could get knocked out.
They
Same
call him
thing for
Sugar?
him. They call him Sugar, man. There's only 3 Sugars in history, man, and he's one of them, right?
Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard,
And Brandon Sugar Sugden.
Brandon Sugar, yeah.
Big shout out to Sugar. So okay, so Spider, I'm gonna switch things around a little bit, buddy, now, and you know I think I've said this a couple times because this show's been so dynamic. We've been able to cover so many things. Now there's a lot of times in people's lives where a difference maker in their life could be the difference between them going astray or them going the successful route.
Absolutely.
Okay? And I know that's a very complicated way that I said that, but the reason why I'm getting into this is that's what it was like for me at a time in my life when it was probably, I was rock bottom, okay? I was not in a good place, okay? You went out of your way. You stopped by my mother's house.
Your mother called me, and I remember her. She was very shook up. I mean, to the core, and I just felt terrible because you know, you're her son, and you had such a great future in front of you, and you know, and I just wanted to do what I could. Because you know one thing, that isn't the end. I work with so many. I go into the prisons all the time and talk with young people, and they think it's the end because it's very difficult, as you know, once you serve time, the stigma you have for a long time. It does something to you because, you know, when you're in prison, they put you to bed every night, they wake you up every morning, they tell you what to eat, what to drink, what to wear, what to watch, what to read, and that stuff, you know, I understand that. So when I saw you like that, and it hurt me, it bothered me because I saw this young man of color who's gonna get it and make it in the National Hockey League. But you know what I'm proud of? The way you turned out. You overcame that adversity. with great support from your family and turns your life around. And that's those are things that for me, that's a reward. That's gratifying.
I appreciate that, buddy. I just like I wanted to thank you. Yeah. So, and thanks guys for clapping. So, again, Spider, you were there for me when you did that for me. The mindset that it put me in, knowing that someone cared about me, was supporting me in that way on many different angles, it enabled me to go in the right direction and make the best of the situation that I was in. And I have to mention that to you, and I have to thank you. And the thing is, Spider, is there's not too many opportunities that people are able to thank, motivators like yourself. You're a mentor, you're a motivator, you're a coach, you're a lot of things to people. And, everything that you've done and everybody that you've touched out there and affected in positive ways, I have a platform here, so I'm able to thank you. But there's a couple mutual friends that have come here and they would like to thank you too, okay? So I'd like to get Bad Boy Donnie and Brandon Sugar Sugden, if he's around, to come back here. These guys here, Donnie, yeah. Yep. We got Sugden, one of my last guests, my main rival. So guys, come back here. So pretty much, Donnie, you can go first. This was my opportunity to thank Spider. I wanted to do this for a long time. We're all here, brother, so we're taking advantage of the situation. Here you go, my man.
Spider, met you when I was 14 years old down at the Regent Park Boxing Club with Clyde Gray. First time I met you, you were a ring announcer in one of my fights. I was 15. And you said, I'm going to name you after this fight. I fought a guy who was junior Canadian champion, 6'7". And we thought I was going to lose because he was so tall. But I put it on him, Spider. And I always loved you and respected you and looked at you as a father figure and a mentor in my life. And that's what kept me straight and narrow from the crime, all that. And I want to thank you, Spider.
I'll tell you something about this kid. I watched him when he first broke into the game. Clyde Gray was training you, your father.
Yes.
And a tremendous, he had a promising future, but his kid cancer hit him when he was young. And it stole his career away, but it didn't stop him. He's a warrior.
That's right, Spider.
And now he trains other people, but he's not just a warrior, he's a mentor for other people. I'm proud of you, too.
Thank you, Spider.
I watched you, but you was a great young fighter.
Yeah. Sugar, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Spider. Yeah, so we've known each other since I could walk, and it was crazy. Every gym that I went to, you were there. And, I know you and my dad were great buddies and everything. And it was like, hey, Spider. Everywhere I went, you were there.
Your father trained Nicky Furlano and Eddie Mello, and they both became hell of fighters. And he also got me a lot of gigs in wrestling as a commentator. I remember talking to him one time when things were a little slow, and I'm going to make money. And he said, "Why don't you MC some wrestling matches?" I said, "I don't know anybody." He says, "I do." And this time I'm getting calls from all over the country to go and MC these wrestling matches, and really had a great time.
Yeah, no, he spoke so highly of you, and I remember meeting you. Like I think I was 6 at Newsboys or Cabochon or
you were
somewhere.
about 6, 7 years old.
Yeah.
In the gym, his father used to bring him into the gym, and then that's crazy.
Yeah, it's been so long, and the last time we saw each other was on the cruise ship there.
That's right. That's right.
Thing. But no, you've always been there, and everybody's always talking about you, man. And you're an icon.
Look at these guys, man.
You're an icon, man. You're an icon.
Tough guy. Hey, the toughest guys in hockey, I found out most of them were the gentlest guys off the ice. Really, that's the truth. I found Bobby Probert like that off the ice. Marty McSorley talks like he's a sissy off the ice. I mean, tell him I said that.
What are you saying?
Because Marty McSorley got that real nice voice, but these guys are crazy on the ice. They fight like nuts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Old school.
Well, thanks for having us, Spider.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. Boy, wow, that's very funny.
I want to thank you guys so much. And you know what, just while I have you guys up here, So ladies and gentlemen, this whole boxing thing, it motivates, it gets people going. I have boxed in the past. I've gotten my Quebec license. I'm going to start training again. Mr. Donnie is going to be my trainer. We live very close together. We're going to be working hard. So I just want everyone to know just something to look out for. You know, Sheriff's going to get training and get back into the boxing state of mind. So
Totally.
Donnie's going to get me there, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And Sugar, while I have you here, buddy. So when's our part 2 gonna happen?
I know, right?
When
That's
available, bud.
Yeah, no,
soon.
Yeah, soon.
Next couple weeks.
Yeah.
But
Well, I don't know
they-
about that. I said I had surgery.
Okay, 3 weeks.
But always wants the angle, eh? Always wants the angle.
All right, guys. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Just don't get a nickname like I got coming. They used to call me Kid Candle. One blow and I was out.
So, and now that we have this little segment, I just want to take this opportunity. You know, the Sheriff Podcast is powered by ZenpaiDispensary.com. Order now, guys. And Raymond LaRose, thank you so much for the sponsorship, my man. So, Spider.
Blame him.
Spider.
Raymond. Oh, Raymond.
Raymond
I thought you
LaRose.
said blame him. Where's Raymond?
He's back here. He's my sponsor. He's
Hey,
a big
Raymond.
supporter. He's been here since the beginning. Raymond, shout out
You got a
to
good
Raymond.
show. I watch it all the time, and you get all these guys on. I love Ryan. I saw Ryan Reeves on a
Yes.
couple weeks. Oh, I love
Big
the guy,
Ryan
man.
Reeves.
He tough kid.
Coming back from injury. He's going to prove a lot of naysayers wrong when he gets back and starts
What they're
smashing
talking
people
about. I'm waiting
into
for him
the
and
boards.
Lucic to dance before it's over.
There you go. That would be the heavyweight championship of the league.
It would, but
right?
we got this kid out of Montreal. What's his name?
Wi-Fi, they call him as a nickname.
Yeah.
It's like
I-
Zazilalabab.
They didn't really
or something.
get a chance to really finish that fight. but,
Yeah, he threw him up against the net, so
Yeah, he's strong
It
kid,
ended
though.
early. So no, Spider, like my apologies. I've gone way over the time limit, but I don't care because it's my birthday and I'm breaking the rules. And I have one of my mentors with me. I'm taking advantage of the time. Doesn't happen too often. Right before we go, obviously we got to talk about some of the current awesome things that you do have going on. I want you to explain to the viewers and listeners a little bit about the Spider's Web right before we wrap things up, my man.
Well, you know, in the early '90s when I was on the Fan, I got a call from a teacher, and he wanted me to come out and talk to some kids that were, I guess they were sort of delinquent. Ooh. So at any rate,
Ladies and gentlemen, the food has just arrived, so we will be ending very shortly.
So anyway, he asked me to come out and speak to some of the kids, and I said, I don't know what to say. Just share your story. So I did, and I got calls. They started asking me to come out, and I thought, you know what? I'm going out and I'm lighting these kids up. I'm inspiring them, but you still need to keep feeding their passion.
Yes.
And mentoring them. And so I opened a center up at the Jane Wilson area, and it's been open now for about 10 years. It's called the Spider's Web Youth Empowerment Center.
Yep.
And along with Greenman Property Management, we run that, and we change the lives of a lot of young people and empower them and with skills, life skills, so that they can become successful in life. And a lot of times we take them out of gangs and
Yes.
turn their lives around and get them through education, skilled trades. So that's what we're doing right now.
So now, Spider, for people that want to support this movement, what's the best way for them to do that? Like, do they look up the website? Is there a number that they can call? Like, if they want to support in any way?
Well, you can hit my website, spiderjones@rogers.com. That's my email, spiderjones@rogers.com. And my website is just spiderjones.com. Or you can reach me anytime on my cell phone at 416-452-2022. And we are doing some wonderful things at the center, and we need all the support we can get financially and anything else.
The man of the people right there. Man of the people right there, buddy. All right, well, this is a great way to end it. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to another episode of The Sheriff Celebration edition featuring Mr. Spider Jones. We'll see you next time, guys. Woo!
Thanks for tuning in, baby.